Well, hello, friends, and thank you so much for joining me on Best of Both Worlds. I'm Linda V. Taylor. We have a special guest today, so stay tuned. We have Jodi Robinson with us today. She is a modern quilter. Well, she's an all quilter,
Yeah.
but really kind of specializing lately in the modern quilting. And we have enjoyed so much the shows that you have been here with us and shown us some of the wonderful quilting that you've done. An award-winning quilter, really. You're just amazing.
Thank you.
So, what are you going to show us today?
Well, today I'm going to show you some more stencils. This time, what happened was, after playing with stencils, I realized there were stencils I wanted that were not available. So I had
Wow.
some made that
That really worked for you.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So let's take a look at them.
The first stencil that I had done was this one, and we ended up calling it Circle Pop. Reason being that you do the circle and then you get the little pop in the middle. But
Wow. And this is all
and
been
these are the designs.
awesome.
And like I said in the previous show, again, this is really just as a framework. So you can fill it in, as you can see. I mean, I filled it in with different things, not just to do this circle pop. And then I wanted some more basic ones. So this is really just a basic 3-inch grid. And I wanted the X there, just in case.
Just in case.
Whether I use it or not, I may mark the whole thing and not use all those lines.
Doesn't hurt to have those reference
And I
lines.
mean,
Oh, that's
you can do so
neat.
many, cool things. And because you have those little marks, reference lines, it makes it a lot simpler. Now, I would do all these before, but I would
Yes.
sit and mark and mark and mark. And so I realized, why
Much
not make
easier.
it easier on yourself?
Yes.
So then after the square, I realized I had to have a diamond. So again, it's the same thing. It's just a basic
Simple.
diamond grid with it's crossed in the center.
Cross diamond.
And I wanted them to be big
Oh,
so
my
that
goodness.
I could.
And look at that.
The main purpose was so I could fill them in with things.
Oh, I love these.
And so, yeah, little feathers, some more
Yes.
traditional things. And of course, because it's a diamond, you can pull the triangles as well. Or on this example, I just left off this line from the diamond.
Wow, and
So I
that's
was
sort of
able
it. You
to-
showed us a technique kind of like that last
Very
time,
similar.
but this is just, I just love
Yeah,
that.
and
Just
it's
love
just,
it.
I love the idea of having that framework and being able to, and then this is another design that I've been doing for quite a few years. And I had this stencil made for it because I was marking this and I would teach it in a class and people would say, well, that's a great design.
But it
I
takes a
am
lot of
not
time to mark.
going to mark all that. So, yeah, the stencil made it perfect.
There you go.
And cut down on time. And the thing that was neat, once I got these stencils, I wanted them for one very specific reason. But when I got them, I realized, oh my gosh,
You can really use them.
you can use them for so many other things.
Nice to have something you use more than once, because we do
Yeah.
buy a lot of stuff
Yes.
that we only
Yes.
use once. Or,
Yeah. And
So
I
that's
mean,
awesome.
everyone will come up with their own ways to use it, and I think that's great.
So you're going to sew something out for us using
Yeah.
your stencils?
I can sew a couple of these out and
Awesome.
show you how I do them.
We can't wait.
Okay, so I've gone ahead and marked a little portion of the Circle Pop stencil. And you can see, it's a grid, and then the circle is inside of it.
So you can use either. If you didn't
Yes.
want the circles, you don't have to use.
And if you're going to actually stitch this, you can choose to stitch the grid first, if that's what you want to do, and everyone probably is going to want to do a different thing. I choose to stitch these circles first. And I'll tell you why at the end, after I'm finished stitching. So this is super easy, okay? It's really a spiral, and you have your guide, and so all you got to do is, okay, so let me stop here for a second because I'm totally off my line. But that's the cool thing about this, is that it doesn't matter. Ideally, you would have matching thread, but if your circle isn't as round as you would like it to be, it's like a pebble. So you can go around another time if you need. To
make
kind
your
of
corrections,
square, I'm
yeah.
still not helping this one any. But you can go around as many times as you need to get it how you like. You spiral into the center, and it's the same thing. You want to stitch that circle. If it's not as round as you want it to be, it's fine to go around it a few more times. Then what you're going to do is you just spiral back out. And you're trying to fill in
between those
the area
lines.
fairly well. When you're happy with how well you filled it in, you just scoot right over into the next one. Again, I mean, it's just a very simple spiral. And I will mention that, you know, when you do a design like this is a lot of thread. I mean, it would be close to thread painting. I mean, you're laying down a lot of thread.
Yeah, it's heavy.
And so you really want to be careful to choose the right batting. You just need to have something that's nice and firm so that it can support that much stitching, but still have some loft because you want that little circle to pop up. And you can see I can just travel right in from one to the other.
And what we're using today is the Hobbs Poly Down.
And that's perfect because
Yeah.
it's nice and puffy. Okay, so now I've finished. And if you see a spot maybe where you think, oh, I needed more here, you can just go back.
Just go back.
It's fine. And again, if this were matching thread, you wouldn't notice
No.
so much, okay?
Yeah.
So when I said about the grid, why I like to do it last is that, for one thing, you could stop here. And you could leave these because it creates these nice little puffy diamonds.
I love those puffy
Okay.
diamonds, yeah.
For me, what I found is that I generally am not able to keep these perfectly round. And so then my diamonds look a little funny. So I choose to generally always put in the grid. And I stitch the grid last. Because what happens is that you're then, so I'm going to stitch over here. So I'm going to stitch over that travel line where I traveled from one into the other. So it disguises that. And I think too that once you put in the grid, if your circles weren't perfectly round, once you put these lines through here, it breaks that all up and you
it
don't
flattens
notice.
it right up, doesn't it?
Yeah. And I mean, it's breezy and it's
awesome.
kind of cool. I've done a whole quilt as the background of this. I would not recommend it. It took forever. But as an accent thing where, you know, maybe you have one area that you want to showcase, it's perfect. It works really well.
That's neat. Now, do you have different size circles?
I do not.
Okay.
And the reason I did it in this size was because I did play around with sizing. And if you make it any bigger, this becomes too big of a circle unquilted.
Too puffy.
But you could, you know, if you have a set of circle templates, you could make them bigger. You just need to add something in there,
Okay.
and that would work fine.
Wonderful.
So as you can see, I've gone ahead and I chalked out just that crossed square. It's a 3-inch crossed square. And I'm going to show you how to stitch this design right here.
Oh, that's lovely.
I love it because it looks really complex, but when I show you how to stitch it, it really is not. I mean, granted, it isn't fast and easy, but it's not very hard to do. And yes, you do have to backtrack just a little bit, so, but it's okay. I generally would choose kind of thinner thread, maybe a So Fine by Superior or whatever you like to use, simply because of the backtracking. And I am going to use a ruler to do it. And what I like to do is stitch in all this basic framework first. And I think it's easier. I like to work through most things in a really methodical way, kind of do all of one thing. You could probably stitch this as you go, but for me, I tend to miss one somewhere along the line, and then I don't like to have to go back at the end to redo.
Yeah, I find everyone sort of has their own system.
Yeah.
But I think that what you're doing is very organized.
And I think, I mean, in class, I always tell people, I think you know, you watch someone do something and they do it the way they do it, but I think everyone has to find, you know, a way that works best for them.
What's comfortable.
Yeah. And sometimes I think, you know, I do something one way, and then the next time I do it a different way. So, once you get this, where do I need to go here still? Let me cut across here.
The diagonal lines are the hardest ones,
They are.
certainly to do freehand.
You know what, I'm just going to double these, just doesn't take so long here.
It's nice to have the lines there, the reference lines.
Yeah. Security. Okay. And so I'm going to go ahead and go, I probably would not have this many back tracks, but in order to make this make sense, I need to start here, because this is just where I like to start.
Okay.
Okay. So so what we're going to do is we're going to stitch some lines up and up to one line and then echo it. You can put as many or as few as you want. The thing that you have to remember is that you always want it to come from the center out, because it needs to be along this line.
Okay.
Okay, and it'll kind of make sense once so I'm just going to go up here, and I'm using 1/4 inch line, so I'm just going to line it up right on that line. Go up here, and down, here, 2 echoes, and then you're just going to backtrack right up to the next triangle. I mean, so there's really only a little bit of backtracking. And if you have matching thread, it would be a little bit. I just did an entire quilt with this as the background, and
Wow.
yeah. Oh, I got a little bit. Did the wrong size there, but it's okay. But once you get the flow of it, it didn't take too terribly long. So you're really only backtracking right in the very center there, the most.
Just using your foot as a guide for your
Yeah.
width, kind of. Okay.
And then you can go right into the next one.
And go right in there. Well, thank you so much for showing us that one. I was particularly drawn to that design.
And it's very pretty.
It's that
I think.
geometric look.
It's just very clean. And it looks harder than it is.
Well, you can get all of Jodi's stencils if you're interested in trying some of these fun designs. And she also has a book that you can get on her site.
Yes,
I say that because she's not very good at marketing herself. So anyway,
it's all on my blog. If you just actually Google Jodi Robinson Designs,
it'll be there.
It'll be there.
All right, so we can find you because we're going to stick with you with
that
all
would
these
be
fun and
good.
new ideas.
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thanks
It
for
has
having
been
me.
an absolute treat to have you
It was a
here.
lot of fun.
You bet. And thanks for joining us on Best of Both Worlds. We'll see you next time.